fulfillment, vision in action. You left lifelong fulfillment, vision in action. Live.
Welcome to another session of Vision in Action Live. Good morning. I'm Jim Boswell. I'm your host. I'm the instigator of the Lifelong Fulfillment Initiative for Personal Development and the author of Lifelong Fulfillment, Take Charge of Your Life and its companion website. Joining us today is Francine Jain. She's going to be our co-host for this broadcast, and she's the CEO of Terawatt, who does business coaching. And joining us today is Ms. Wendy Sellers, the HR lady, who's an expert in all things pertaining to human resources. So this should be very enjoyable. Just to recap, on the Vision in Action Live podcast, as you know, we focus on the expert knowledge and solutions that it takes to build individual personal development. These are the component solutions that, when you put them together, allow you to construct and pursue the complete vision of your best life. To do this, we bring you experts in every conceivable discipline that can help you inform your thinking about your own journey to personal fulfillment and lifelong over your life. So welcome this morning. Today we have a discussion with the HR lady, Wendy Sellers, whom you see in the center here, who's an advisor, consultant, trainer, and speaker in human resources, business, and leadership. And she's also the author of Suck It Up, Buttercup. What a name. Ms. Sellers has over 25 years of experience. She carries a master's in human resources, a master's in healthcare administration, and she's a graduate of Dale Carnegie. She's a certified HR professional, a certified professional in DISC personality training, and a licensed health and life insurance expert. Welcome, Mrs. Sellers. We're really happy to have you on board today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And we're really eager to hear, what we should be expecting in the human relations arena these days. So with that, did I miss anything, Wendy, in your introduction that you might want to amplify on or cover?
Yeah, just that I'm a no sugarcoating kind of girl. So if you ask me,
Blunt truth, huh? Okay.
yep, if you ask me a question, you're going to get the truth, and there's going to be no BS involved.
Okay, well, I'll kick it off. One of the things that we would like to know is, the workplace seems a bit in turmoil to those of us who've had careers before and some of us who have them now. Maybe you can tell us what's going on in all of that.
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing is, I'll say since the pandemic, but it was really way before this, is that our employees are unengaged. And it's been like that for many, 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 many years. Everybody's just blaming the pandemic. So we'll just go with that. But what really happened is during the pandemic is a lot of people, unfortunately, passed away. So we lost those employees. Many people chose to retire early or leave the workforce for whatever reason. And then on top of that, we have a need for skills that were just like tools that were just developed yesterday. And we expect employees and candidates to all be experts at these new skills, skills that are necessary for a workplace. Well, it doesn't happen that way. We have to train people. We either have to educate them formally or informally, through on the job training. So the reason I'm saying that is we have a shortage of workers. We don't have a shortage of humans in this earth. We have a shortage of workers who have the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we need. And then on top of that, the workers that we do have really aren't thrilled with the workplace, to be quite honest. And because of the pandemic, they realized, you know what? There's a lot more to life than work. So I'm just working, working my job, working the bare minimum. I'm not going to go above and beyond. My employer will can me in a heartbeat if they have to do layoffs. So people are finally realizing, I need to do more than just work for a living. And so we have a shortage of people. That's really what it comes down to. And so if we're not willing to change the way we manage our employees, the way we interact with our employees, the way we treat these other humans, then they're not going to pony up and say, yeah, I'll work real hard for you. And I don't blame them. I really don't blame them at all. And now we're stuck with that. It's not going to change anytime soon. In fact, it's probably going to get worse in 2025 because of we won't talk about politics because that's that's not the right thing to do. We'll just say changes, right? Change is coming, and less availability of workers from other countries coming into the United States to help us. So we think things are going to get better, but it's not. It's going to get much worse. We're going to have even more disengaged employees, and now they're going to have even more options of where they're going to work because everybody's going to need humans to work for them. So that's a big mouthful, but that's basically where we're at.
Okay.
Can I jump in at any time, or can
absolutely? Please do.
Yeah, I have so many questions and thoughts. So where do you think that the situation we're in now is a result of companies really deferring education for their employees, or what happened to get us to the stage where we are now? I mean, what's different from now maybe versus like 20 years ago or 25 years ago?
Oh, great question. Thank you for asking that. So a couple things are different. First of all, even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you would get hired at a job. You'd have maybe 1 to 4 jobs in your lifetime. Companies didn't just let you go. They didn't say, oh, we're going through some challenging times. We're going to let this person go because we need to save that money. They said, no, these are humans. They're part of our team, part of our lives. And we want you to be here for the long haul. And even though we're struggling right now, financially, we'll make it work. But now we have companies that, for whatever reason, their main focus is money, right? And so if their main focus is money and they have to make the people who want that money happy, their boards, their investors, things like that, it's all about money, 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 money. And so they're going to try to make those people happy versus holding on to employees who might have challenges or might need some training, or maybe you just have a slowdown in the workforce and they say, nope, we're going to get rid of 3 people and pile all the other work on 2 other people. Well, how do you think those 2 people feel that they just lost their 3 friends, their coworkers, and they're getting all of their work? So now they're even less engaged as well, even though they got to keep their job. That means they're going to come to work, do the bare minimum, probably do it okay, but they're saying, I'm not going to go above and beyond because any day now you could let me go. So that's one thing, in my personal opinion and expertise that is going on. And then getting to your question about education, our schools aren't teaching what people need, and even down to, elementary school, middle school, high school. And I think that's going to get worse too, because of changes that are happening in the United States, specifically with education, private schools. Only the rich people can afford private schools. Most people are not rich. And so we're going to continue pumping out people with high school degrees that really don't have the skills that somebody 20, 30 years ago with a high school degree got. You know what I mean? So it's that, and most young people these days are really, saying, I don't think I'm going to go to college because it is expensive. I mean, I just turned 50 years old and I still have another at least 15 years to pay off my student loans, and I didn't get any of the help. I'm so happy for everybody that did get the help. But that's going away too, right? The help with the government and getting rid of student loans. So it's all about cost and money, and people saying, you know what, it's not worth it. Why am I going to go get a $50,000 degree when it's only going to make me $10,000 more? Why don't I just save that $50,000 and buy something else, like a house eventually that I couldn't afford if I have a degree? So it really does, in my opinion, a lot of it comes down to money, greed, unfortunately, and then realizing that we're not in 1980, we're not in 1990, we're not in 2000, we're almost in 2025. The world has changed. It's expensive to live, and it's expensive to, it's expensive to employ people. And if we're not willing to go the extra mile and do the right thing for our employees, we're not going to have good employees.
Mm. What's an example of something that's not being taught in schools that used to be that is ill preparing the graduates?
Communication, how to interact with others, as simple as, recess, right? As simple as recess. Many schools, they say they have recess, but then they force the kids to sit and read a book. Well, they're not learning how to interact. They're not learning to make mistakes. They're not learning how to literally, argue with somebody in the playground, which then you learn how to get out of that argument. You learn how to, recover and build relationships. Our children are not learning that. They're also not learning sports, this, that, and the other thing, extracurricular activities, because they come home and they have a pile of homework that they're sitting there for the rest of the night doing homework when they're not able to walk around the block, play with their friends, communicate, build relationships, again, get in arguments, figure out how to get out of arguments, things like that. So they're coming to the workplace, and this isn't anything new, by the way, but they're coming to the workplace and they're going, you want me to talk to somebody? You want me to communicate? Can I just send them an email or a text, which, by the way, is my preferred communication mode right now, but it's also because you can do it at any time of night or day, but we're not preparing society to interact with each other, learn from each other. Then there's, of course, technology skills too, that schools may not be teaching the kids on, but technology changes so quick that you're just often left with, figure it out. We're not going to teach you, figure it out. If that kid over there could figure it out, you could figure it out. And it's like, no, that's not how all humans learn. We really need to be, having well thought out processes. And I say kids, but I mean everybody. This is for young adults. This is for people my age, 50 years old. I mean, I just got done teaching a group of people how to use ChatGPT, and most of them the ages were all over the board, and they were just like, this is so scary. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, I'm going to make it unscary for you so that you can use that to help you communicate and get things off your checklist. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to me because it's like the first part of what you were saying, it sounds like a lot of EQ type stuff, right? Like it's just the ability to kind of be human and to relate to people as kind of going by the wayside with a lack of sports and free time.
Yeah, lack of parents fix things for their kids and then they don't know how to fix them themselves. Yeah. They're like, oh, well, somebody else fixed it for me. And we do this at work too. The manager will say, I'll do that. Don't worry about it. I'll fix it. And they might be doing that because they oh, well, you're working so hard. I'll fix that. And it's like, no. Have them in the session with you fixing the product. So the next time, so that they learn and they feel good about themselves and they don't feel embarrassed and they're not hiding the mistake. And so I feel like we have some managers that like are just really hard and like, do as I say, not as I do. Writing people up, and they're strict old school. And then we have other managers who are like, I'll do everything for you and clean up your mess. And it's like, come on, can we just get a happy medium here and treat everybody like a human and know that mistakes happen, but that's how we learn from mistakes. I mean, I've made some major mistakes in my life, and right after them I go, well, not going to do that again. Why? Because I had the painful result that I then had to fix it. Whether it's in my personal life or in my business life, I'm like, oh, that was so painful and I have to fix that now. Now I know how to do it the right way and I never want to make that mistake again. But if somebody else cleaned it up for me, I'd be like, whatever. I guess I can make that mistake again because somebody else is going to clean up my mess, right?
So, Wendy, is anybody transitioning this well? I mean, you're talking about a real structural disconnect where you're right. The employees have been traded off for earnings per share. It is about making companies and, investors wealthy. And that's not the world most of us workers live in.
Right.
Additionally, it seems very difficult to say, well, my fallback is I can always work for myself. And especially because my experience is when you work for yourself, you have to have everything you would have had for the corporate world plus more to actually be successful doing that. Not everybody just invents a product or a service and is wildly successful simply because of introducing it and it being new.
Right.
So
Yeah,
are you seeing anybody who's actually addressing this and doing a good job about it? And
oh yeah. Yeah,
how
it
are
really,
they succeeding?
you
Yeah.
know, the companies that are succeeding are taking what we're talking about very seriously. Maybe they can't change society, but they can interview in a different way. They
Mhm.
can say, you know what, we're going to interview people and we're going to ask behavioral based questions and we're going to get to this person's values. And even if they don't have the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we need, if they have the passion and the desire, we're
Right.
going to hire them and we're going to train them and we're going to actually train them, not just say we're going to train them. We're going to have a full plan for the entire first year of this person's life cycle with us to say, you know, here is your training plan for the full year. Here's your ongoing feedback. Here's the conversations. You're allowed to give us feedback. We'll give you feedback and we'll actually listen to each other. They're making sure that, you know, there is an education budget. That's the biggest thing. You know, when I was in corporate HR, and now I'm an HR consultant, so I have a small business clients that don't have HR. The first thing that usually goes in an economic crunch within a company is the training budget. Like, okay, now you're mad that that person doesn't have that new knowledge that you need, but you remove the money and the opportunity for this employee to learn that. So don't be mad at them. Grab that mirror and look at it because you might be part of the problem. Money away, you know what I mean? And so, you know, people, we have to really get the executives, we have to get the CFO who's, you know, cutting these things to realize like, no, 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 that actually is going to affect our bottom line. Because if we train people to do things the way we want them to do it, or use a new skill or new technology, or, you know, a system, if they do it better than they're doing it now, then there's going to be less mistakes and maybe they won't quit. We won't have to replace people, you know. So in the end, when you're dumping money into your employees, you actually get a lot more out. However, it takes a lot of time for that to happen, and many companies give up and they don't see the win like so quick. So they're like, oh no, no, I don't want to invest in this anymore. Let's take away that benefit. Let's take it away that bonus. Let's take away this training, because I don't see it changing our business. And it's like, well, you only gave it a month, right? It's gonna take easily
What,
6 to 12 months, sometimes 3 years, depending on how bad your company is right now.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask is like, at what point do you start to see benefits from the training and that can like be tracked into like the organizational results?
You know, I can't give you an answer on that because every single company is going to be different. If you have everything else in a row, say you're in a small business and you have all your ducks in a row, you're a high payer, you pay on time, you have decent benefits, you know, you treat your people well, and they just need training on XYZ, you know, communication skills, anti-harassment, and then over here they need training on some new technology. Well, then the return on investment is going to happen very quickly, right? Because it's like, okay, we fix the barriers, boom, keep going. But let's face it, most companies aren't in that position. I don't care how big you are, how small you are. Most companies are not in the position to say, "Oh, we have amazing compensation and benefits, and our managers are all fully trained on not only all laws but how to communicate to people, and you know they understand and believe in our culture of respect and transparency." Yeah, right. I wish if that was the case, I'd have no job. So you know, it's really just grabbing that mirror again and saying, let's be truthful with ourselves. What's broken in our company? And if we had, you know, money to fix it, what would we fix? And then do some backwards planning to figure out how can we do this a little at a time, and then, you know, analyze the results. How can we change it a little bit at a time? If the bigger the company you are, I would even make small changes in like maybe just a department, like, oh, we're trialing it in this department. We're going to do summer hours only in this department, or we're going to do summer hours, but only this summer to see, you know, for 4 weeks this summer, not the whole summer. And we're going to test it out and see if we can work it. So I like to do trials because that way you can pull it back and say, okay, it didn't work. Or the maybe that our employees gave us, they said they didn't like that. So we're listening to them, or our clients didn't like it or something like that. So trials are really good. And then the other thing that I love, 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 love to do, and I don't care how big or small you are, is before you make any decisions, even a policy change or a location change or flexible schedule change, create a committee and put employees on that committee. So I want it to be a diverse committee, not just diverse in the traditional mindset, but diverse in thought. So I want somebody who just started in the company there. I want somebody who's been there 20 years. I want somebody from that department, this department. I usually even kick out leaders. I'm like, no, you're threatening. Nobody wants to talk in front of you. So tell me what you want me to tell them, and now get out of my meeting. So that way employees say, okay, they're listening to me. Now, an aside there, if you ask your employees for information and they give it to you and you don't listen to them, they're never going to give you information again.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, love. I mean, does that like dovetail with ERGs? What's your opinion on some of the so how does this tie into kind of like the decline of DEI now? What is sort of your take on that?
two things. Employee resource groups, the ERGs, the committees, things like that. I don't care what you call them. The problem with ERGs, the good thing is they're there. They build relationships with those people in there in the employee resource group. Those people feel heard, whether it's a DEI type group, whether it's somebody who just relocated from another state, or they're trying to get their GED and they're all studying together. It just builds relationships, and people stay for relationships. People stay for their friends. People are going to stay 10 minutes late to get a project done because their friend is staying late, and they're only their friend because they're in that ERG with them, and so these relationships are important. They're very, very important. Small companies probably aren't going to have employee resource groups, but maybe you at least allow them to go to one in the community, say, hey, I'm going to let you cut out early every Wednesday. You can make up your hours the other time so that you can go to that, resource group that's at our local library every, Wednesday. I'm doing that because I care about you and I can't afford to do what you need here, but I'm going to help you get to it. So that's one thing there. On the other question of DEI and why there is a decrease. So it's politics. It's politics. I'm in the state of Florida. That's all I got to say. Nothing else, right? It's 100% politics. Politicians basically said, no, we don't want that. And that's because they're being fed by the stockholders and the stakeholders and the investors that say, we don't care about that. All we care about is the money. Now, that's a pretty big, statement. I'm not saying they don't care about people, but that's not their role. So in the past, we would tell our stakeholders, too bad. The employees are important. And many companies are doing that as well. They're telling their stakeholders and their investors, no, our employees are the lifeline of this company, and we're going to treat them like this. And if you don't want that, then you need to, here's your money back. And that's a hard thing to say when you're broke, right? Where you need that money. But I do think DEI hasn't 100% gone away. I think we internally are just using different terminology so that the politicians don't come after us. And so that the negative Nellies who are saying, oh, you care more about them than me. And, so they could kind of be calmed down a little bit. But I really don't think DEI has gone away. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The equity part is very, 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 very difficult to achieve because equity is where you and I are on the same page in life right now today. Well, if you grew up with a rich family and I grew up with a poor family, which I did, I've already started at ground zero from the womb. And then, if I wasn't able to go to college and things like that, why is it the employer's responsibility to fix that? It shouldn't be, but employers took that on, and for whatever reason. And so good employers are still saying, I don't care what the politicians say. It's the right thing to do. And this is what we're going to do for our employees. So we can continue having diversity of the official sense of diversity, but diversity of thought in our organization. We value that. We'll call it something else if we have to, but we value that, and we're going to continue with it. So it's not completely gone. They may have just renamed it.
That's good that it hasn't completely gone away.
Yeah, it really hasn't.
You don't make those kinds of investments You isolate yourself from marketplaces, you isolate yourself from the employees you need.
Yeah.
It would be a shame to see us completely desert all those principles.
Yeah. And it's top now. This is November 2024,
Yes.
post-election. I'm having this conversation. Talk to me in March. Maybe it might be a different conversation because if you currently, in case you don't know, if you're currently a government contractor, whether a federal government contractor or a subcontractor, and you have and or if you have 100 employees or more, even as a private employer, there's these forms that you have to give to the government every year that says, here's all my employees and their characteristics, like their gender, their gender, race, age, things like that. And you're supposed to submit that report, to the government. And then if you are a government contractor, you have to prove currently that you're striving for a diverse and inclusive environment and hopefully equitable too. And that's part of the contract, the funding contract. It was just announced by our future new president that he is going to be removing that requirement. Now, I don't know if he actually is going to have the capability to do that. We'll find out, but that is what he's saying. And so that might be good for employers, might be going, okay, great. Now we don't have to track this stuff anymore. But it's going to come back at some point in time. So I want it stopped. I don't really care what the government says I can't do. I want to go above and beyond because I want to be an employer of choice, and I want to stop losing employees, and I want to stop spending, so much money on recruiting and replacing these employees and retraining them and losing clients because employees are leaving. So it would still be in everybody's best interest to still have those things going on behind the scenes, even if it's not legally required by the government. Does that make sense?
Sure. Sure it does. It's a business decision.
Yep.
Well, everything you're saying, I keep thinking, it seems to me like there's like a battle right now between long-term and short-termism. And like when you're talking to clients, how do you get them to kind of see the forest for the trees and make your case for like how to, act in the long-term interest of the company?
I have to say, since the COVID pandemic, so since 2020, companies are finally doing it. Even my main focus in with HR consulting and management training is small businesses that don't have HR. So I'm usually dealing with the business owner, right? And pre-pandemic, nobody wanted to training. Nobody wanted to learn how to talk to their employees. Nobody, I'm not saying nobody, I'm being facetious, but they didn't care about EQ, emotional intelligence. They didn't care about this, that, or the other thing. Pandemic hit, and many of them were saying, good, we're in charge now. These people aren't going to have any jobs. Well, that smacked them in the face because it actually turned around the other way, that there was more jobs than humans, right? As I said, many humans took themselves out of the workforce, either because they passed away or they retired or another option. And I was so busy during the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and I have not stopped since then with what I want to do, which is management training. In fact, I just rolled out an online learning management system that's incredibly affordable because I was like, I can't keep going at this rate, and everybody needs this training. So I need to make it, affordable for them. And so they still get me in a can on a computer versus having to pay the real price of me live. And so people that you would never think are saying, hey, I need training because I'm a manager now, are like, please, I beg you, train me, Wendy. And so I'm loving it. And I think they are too. I think they're saying like, wow, I should have done this 15 years ago. But they just had the attitude that I'm the employer, I'm in charge, and you're not in charge anymore. Yeah, you still are in charge of paychecks and benefits and stuff like that, and you get to decide when to hire and fire. But if your best employee gets upset and stomps out the door and walks out, you're no longer in charge, and they're probably going to take some of their friends with them. So, yeah, it's been a lot of changes.
That's so cool that you're doing a lot of like pre-recorded modules. It's a great way to expand your range.
anybody that's listening is interested, you can just go on my website, thehrlady.com. There's a membership program, and if you join the membership program, you get access to me live. Or you could just, I'll be rolling it out. Hopefully by the time this comes out, it'll be out in the next couple days, where you could just go and buy individual courses as well.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's great. Wendy, this is a real eye opener. Thanks. Do you have any final questions, Francine?
Oh my God, I've got 1,000 questions. But I think there was one I wanted to. I was reading about your book, and there's this great quote where you talk about how it's really important to have an open door policy.
Yes.
And I would love for you to expand on that, because I think it's a great idea, but I don't really know. I haven't thought very long about why.
So I'm the author of 2 books, and the one that you're referring to is Suck It Up, Buttercup, Be a Leader People Will Follow. And it was based on all the mistakes I made. It really is. It's based on all the mistakes I made going into management and HR and thinking, oh, I'm in charge. Look at me. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm really not in charge. They're in charge. So I talk about having an open door policy. So I worked at this one company for a short period of time before I became a consultant. It was the worst job of my career ever. And it made me become a consultant and say, how about we not be that company? Because every single door was shut. Literally every single door was shut. Not only shut, but locked. Like every office door you had a key to. And I'm like, we're not really, what are we selling, cocaine here or something? Like, what is going on? I'm like, we're not selling anything that confidential. But even if it wasn't locked, and even if the doors was cracked open, because they used to get so mad, I'd shove something in front of my door and make sure it was open. And I'd be like, no, you're leaving this open. This is an open door. Anybody could come in here and talk to me. And I made them purposely even move my office down this hall where somebody never went. And it was right by a door that came out from the manufacturing plant, and then from outside. So employees can go around the building and come in that little door and sneak in my office. And I was like, the fact that I had to do that means that this is a horrible, horrible place to work, because people are afraid to go to human resources. Are you kidding me here? So open door, very important. And I don't even mean physically open. In that case, I did. But making sure that people know that they could come to you, whoever you are listening to this, whether you're HR, a manager, a team lead, a supervisor, just a seasoned employee, that people see you as a mentor. You really should have an open door policy where anybody could come and talk to you at any time. And that you, even if you don't know the answer, you go find the answer for them. And you let them know, I got your back. I'm going to help you with this. Now, it doesn't mean you're letting them get away with anything, right? It doesn't mean that the manager's there solving a sexual harassment case or covering it up. No, you still have to report that to HR. There still needs to be investigation. But, us humans, we could solve things without managers. So everyone should be able to go to their managers, first of all, but then also just go to more experienced people to say, hey, I'm struggling, I need help. And where that person could say, I can help you, or I know who can help you. Let me walk you over to them, and I'll sit with you during the first meeting to make sure you're feeling comfortable. That's an open door policy.
That's lovely.
So Wendy, your ideal clients are individuals through your books and your subscription service, right?
So most of my clients, I have clients everywhere, all big companies, small companies, but most of my clients are small businesses. So they're the business owner or 1 or 2 managers, and they're handling all the HR functions as well as everything else, right? Safety, payroll, you name it. They're actually managing their department too. So they're handling everything. And they need help. They need expert help, and they're never going to have HR because they're too small. So, but now I also do have, my books are available for sale on my website, thehrlady.com. You can get a PDF there, or you can go to Amazon and get an actual book, and they're in Spanish as well. And so that can help anybody who is even if they're just managing one person, or they're thinking about going into management. It's more about management than HR. And then I also have a podcast, the HR Lady podcast, and that's I have a lot of guests on there, so we educate the world on HR topics that are going on. So anybody who does not have HR can learn for free on that as well.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for joining us today. This was a very interesting talk, and I'm sure our audience is going to enjoy hearing this.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
To see you. Thanks, Jim.
Say, thanks for joining us today for this episode of Vision in Action Live. And thanks especially to our guest today, Ms. Wendy Sellers, and thank you, Francine, for co-hosting today. We really would like to fulfill your interests in personal development. So this is what we do every week. And our future episodes are going to include things like lifestyle transitions, long-term healthcare strategies, coaching solutions, a veterans episode, episodes on personal finance, divorce, and retirement, some of the speed bumps of life as well. So our focus is to do this so that our podcasts focus on interviews with subject matter experts and those solutions we talked about, so that you can actually see what people can do given the right tools and processes. So with that said, check out the newsletters, the podcasts, the extensive reference materials at lifelongfulfillment.com. All of it's free to you, and you're welcome to use it as you see fit. You can find us for this podcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast channel, and also on KFRED Internet Radio. I'm Jim Boswell, your host. You can reach me at jim@lifelongfulfillment.com with any questions you might have. So until next time, let's think about the differences between a life lived by design as opposed to one lived by default. Until then, have a good week.
Lifelong fulfillment, vision in action.